Tonight, a child electrocuted on a railway line, and there's a train coming. The woman who owes her life to her dog. How the medical services cope with the TT races, and what you should do if a child's choking. Most adults know full well that trespassing on the railway is illegal and dangerous. But children may not always understand signs like this one. And there are no other obvious clues that some railway lines constantly carry electricity 3 times more powerful than the supply at home and more than enough to kill you. Barry Smith was 3.5 when he strayed onto the railway near his home near Croydon. Now, some people may be upset at our reconstruction of what happened to Barry, but he was one of the lucky ones. He lived to tell the tale. It's a tale both he and his mother wanted us to tell, as a warning to others that the railway isn't a playground.
Being told exactly what had happened was numbing. I couldn't take it in.
The electric rail is like an animal in a cage. It will kill.
I was going to work and I took Barry, as usual, to the childminder.
I'll see you later. Bye.
I've been a driver on British Rail for 42 years. We moved into this flat overlooking the railway line, and the children play on the green, and they're always over the fence. The electric rail, you should be miles away from it. Don't get anywhere near it.
All right, let's go and get some blackberries. We're not allowed to go in there. Come on.
But the children ignored Gordon's constant warnings.
Come on, Barry, aren't you coming with us?
And on that day, 3-year-old Barry followed them through the fence. As they got closer to the electric rail, a train was coming down the track.
Hello, love. Everything all right?
Well, no, because it's
I looked across the track.
Like a bundle of
I
rags.
saw a little bit of rag, looked like, on the line, and then there was a puff of smoke. I knew something was in touch with the rail.
My God, it's a child. Ring British Rail. Get them to switch off the power. Then get onto the police and an ambulance. Hurry.
In my time, I've shifted several bodies off the electric rail, and this one, being a small child, upset me more than anything or anybody can tell. I just flew across that grass. When I got to the fence, I see this little child, and I thought, he should be dead. He should be dead. I just thought, well, there's no way can I touch him. No way. How am I going to get him off?
If he touched Barry, Gordon would get a shock from the electricity running through Barry's body.
And suddenly I spotted this piece of wood. I thought, just right. God, we've only got one chance, please. And I snatched him and turned him over and laid him beside the train.
It was only then that Gordon realised that a train was coming. He didn't stop to think of the risk to himself, only saving Barry.
I just prayed that he'd stop. And he stopped about 15 feet from us.
Using a short circuit bar to blow out the substation fuse.
Right.
That'll make the electric rail line dead.
Right.
The circuit hadn't been broken, so everything was still alive. And it only needs a fraction of a touch. You can be severely burnt or even killed.
Won't be long now.
I've never seen any injuries like it. But he was still conscious, crying for his mum.
Right, bar going down, look away!
The driver tried to make the electric rail safe by using a short-circuit conductor.
Look away!
This ought to blow the substation fuse and stop all the electricity running through the rail. But they weren't sure that it had worked and had to assume that it hadn't.
I'm not sure if we've got it. We'll have to treat it as live.
Right.
Once again, Gordon risked his life, this time by crossing a line which could be live.
Yeah, lads. Take it easy. Where's the ambulance?
The ambulance is not here. We're taking.
All right, but look after him, because he's pretty bad.
Barry was taken to the Queen Victoria Hospital in East Grinstead.
He seemed very, very frail. He was covered up, so I didn't see at that point just what his injuries were. Just sort of his face, and just sort of held his hand. That's all. He looked so small then.
The first thing we did was take him to our treatment room and inspect his injuries. And as I suspected, he had 3 very deep burns. The first one was on the elbow, the second on his leg, and the third on his abdomen. The reason I wanted to see you today was because by the time sort of a week had gone, it was obvious that the wound on his elbow, the nerve was destroyed, and in his leg, the actual bone had been burnt through. And so we came to this rather frightful decision that he really did need an amputation of that left leg.
It took us a long time to make the decision how we were going to tell him. It wasn't easy, but it was the way he accepted it that I find it quite touching.
We decided we would actually steal from his amputated leg that he couldn't use again the nerve that was running down through it, and use that nerve from the leg that was useless to repair his elbow.
I thought, please let him be all right. Let him be all right. Over and over again.
Seeing Barry so many years later, it was just a great joy to me. Even his mother said he needs several legs a year because he gets through them so fast. In other words, he's really using them. I looked straight at his hand and was overjoyed to see he had completely normal function. So I was very, very happy.
I'm very proud of Barry, how he manages to cope, and I often think that I don't think I would cope as well as he did.
People say to me, well, you shouldn't have been so stupid, you shouldn't go on the train line in, should you? And I said, I was only 3, I wasn't as old as I am now. They just said that I was going to have my leg amputated, and I think I started crying, but then they said, oh, you're not going to be awake, you're going to be asleep. So that made me feel a bit better. Don't play on the train lines because you might die or something, but you might not be as lucky as me. I could have been dead if Gordon wasn't there to save me.
Since this accident, I never went back. I couldn't face the railway no more. Why? I've given my life to it, and now it's taken it away. I'm frightened of electric trains. I keep thinking of myself, try, go on, try. But the memory don't go away.
I would like to help him come over his fear and then try and take him on a train.
It'd be nice to have a go on steaming, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
I've been longing for years to see him. He couldn't have got down the stairs of those flats
and you don't get no trouble
quicker than if he'd got 2 good legs, and he come across that grass like a greyhound and leaped into my arms, and I felt proud.
I didn't think he was going to come on, but then I just held his hand, and then he asked the driver to start to go, and then we went. I just felt really good.
It really made my day to think, at last, I've been able to get on a train of some sort. You with me? I've done it. Good.
Barry certainly owes his life to Gordon. The railway line's not a place you can have an accident and expect to survive. Around 250 people a year are killed, far more than those who escape with their injuries. Most of the victims are in fact over 16 and are hit by trains. So if you're ever tempted to take a shortcut across any working line, don't. An express train travels at 125 miles an hour, and the driver can't stop quickly or swerve to avoid you. You may think that you'll see or hear it in time to get out of the way, but many people have taken that gamble and lost. Victoria Railway Station. Every day, 44,000 passengers pass through here, mostly in the rush hour when the trains are packed with commuters. It was just after 9 o'clock one morning in March when an accident happened to a train that was due in here shortly before 10. It's an accident that can only really be described as a freak of nature and led to one of the most difficult rescues we've ever shown. Our reconstruction focuses on the one man who was trapped in that accident and includes some remarkable video footage shot by the Surrey Fire Brigade. Reg Steer, played here by an actor, was catching the 8:48 from East Grinstead. He was going to London for an important meeting. Also on the train that morning was Ian Hudson.
I work in London, and the train journey to London I've been doing for the last 10 years on and off. Starts at East Grinstead any time from 8 o'clock through to 9:30, depending upon what's happening on that day. I was in the front compartment in the front set of seats. Reg was 1 or 2 rows of seats behind me, also facing forward. As we rounded the last bend towards Dormans Land Station, the driver hit the brakes very hard. And the next thing was that there was an almighty crash on the left-hand side as the tree came in. Subsequently, we learnt that the tree had toppled down the embankment and had actually struck the front of the train. And that had pivoted the tree, if you like, and forced the root end of the tree through the side of the carriage. And at that point, the devastation in the carriage was enormous. The tree came in literally immediately on my left. If I had been sitting on the left-hand set of seats, I would have gone out of the carriage with it. Reg had been swept back by the tree, so his situation was that he was pinned underneath the tree in his seat, but the seat had been ripped off of its mountings.
The emergency services had been called almost immediately, but the closest they could get their vehicles was Dormans Station, half a mile along the track. They didn't know what they might find, so they had to take all the equipment they were able to carry.
This guy had survived the most awful impact. All the seats from the middle of the carriage had been scraped back through the carriage and piled up around him. How he survived it, I don't know. He shouldn't have done. Hello, chap. Has he been unconscious?
No.
Whereabouts does it hurt? You can't feel your legs. Right, what about your arms? I was able to dress his wounds and to make him comfortable as I could with blanketing to keep him warm.
I can't get down to his legs. Can you help me?
My big worries, as always, is what you can't see. His legs could have been severely crushed. He could feel nothing, therefore he couldn't say that they were all right or they weren't. All he was aware of was, in his words, I believe at one point, he said they were numb. If somebody says they're numb, it's a pretty good suggestion that the blood has been stopped, therefore they are trapped.
The fire brigade had to stop the tree doing any more damage, but it weighed more than 3 tons.
Right, Reg, we're going to have to stabilise the tree. Nothing at all for you to worry about.
Start winching!
Any uncontrolled movement of the tree trunk would not only have worsened Reg's injuries, but may well have jeopardised the safety of the rescue teams. So, using a portable winch, we secured one end of the winch to the tree, the other to a tree on the embankment, and took up the tension.
Our main concern was the fact that Reg was trapped underneath the tree, and we were extremely concerned of the weight on the tree actually causing physical damage to Reg. He was underneath the tree, could see very little of him except his chest and part of his legs, and we knew he had quite a long job on our hands to actually get him out. So we decided the most appropriate line to follow initially was to take the weight of the tree from Reg's knees. The ambulance chap advised us that he thought that there was a piece of metal actually impacted into the top of Reg's leg, which worried us a little more, because I say the weight of the tree on it and the weight of the tree on the metal into his body could be causing quite severe internal bleeding, and that was a concern.
OK, let's see if we can have a look. When I came across this piece of metal that was protruding into his stomach, I felt that it probably was penetrating, and therefore it was potentially a very serious situation. It became very obvious that we could not proceed with just lifting the tree. There was too much danger that if the man was impaled, it would do much, much more damage.
And after some quick thinking, we decided the most easy way, and probably the safest way, was to cut the seat from under Reg.
He'd now been trapped for nearly 2 hours.
We'd managed to cut some of the seat away with an air cutting saw, and Reg's seat dropped 3 or 4 inches very gently. We didn't let it drop suddenly.
The position that the metal was in was approximately over the femoral artery, which is the main vessel to the leg. If you damage that, there is a great risk that you will perish.
And we started moving some of the debris from around the seat and his legs. One of our lads discovered a briefcase sitting on his lap, and to a degree it probably cushioned some of the blow, I would imagine.
It was really a relief when Reg finally dropped away that the piece of metal was not indeed inside him. He'd got a lovely mark across his stomach, but he'd got no skin abrasion whatsoever. I was very relieved for Reg's sake.
So at that stage it was quite obvious that the easiest thing to do was to slide him onto the stretcher and then of course gently taking him down to the ground. They worked on him, the ambulance worked on him a little bit more, wrapped him up and took him away.
Reg was taken to the East Surrey Hospital, but then transferred to a specialist unit where he was treated for facial injuries. His legs and the rest of his body were completely unharmed.
The briefcase had obviously played a great part in protecting Reg's legs, and that I'm convinced. I think Reg is a very lucky man to be alive. The tree should have got him. The bits and pieces in the carriage should have got him. He's a very fortunate man.
Today, Reg has made a full recovery, and he still catches the train.
I normally drive to work, but on that day, I travelled for the first time on the train from East Grinstead to Victoria. I had no idea at the time quite what had happened to me. I thought the tree had actually fallen through the roof of the train, and it was only later that I'd learned it actually speared the side of the carriage. I think the briefcase probably saved my life that day, because putting it on my lap, when the seat wrapped round, it took the impact of that seat.
Some mornings, things don't quite work out as planned. But still, with a little bit of luck, he may survive the worst day of his life.
It'll be just beyond that next hedge.
John Cleese on a road to nowhere. Synchronised watches for Clockwise, Saturday at 7 on BBC One.
Now on BBC One, action and adventure in wartime Germany with a Mission Impossible for Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton.